we're going to go ahead and get started. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and start with Committee of the Whole. Oh, no, I'm not doing Committee of the Whole. You are. I'm just ready. You guys kept asking me, so I was just like, yeah, I'm going to go. Go ahead, Diane.
You go ahead. All right. Now it's 4:15 and time for the Murray City Municipal Council Committee of the Whole. We'll start out with approval of minutes for the MCCD Zone Workshop, August 10th, 2022, and the Committee of the Whole for August 23rd, 2022. Do we have any changes, questions, concerns? If we're all okay, I would appreciate a motion.
I'll make a motion for the MCCD Zone Workshop, August 10th, 2022, and Committee of the Whole, August 23rd, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. All right, discussion items. Our first discussion item is a presentation from the Historic Murray First Foundation. And Rachel Moreau and Amy Thomas will be our presenters. So welcome.
I am Rachel Moreau. I'm Vice President of the Historic Murray First Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit that we formed to try to advocate for and to save what we have of our historic fabric in Murray. Really grateful. Thank you for letting us have this opportunity today, Council and Mayor and staff. It's a great opportunity to be here, and we're excited to talk with you today. One of the things that I've been thinking of is as we watch communities around us change their face that they've had for decades and update and revitalize, I was thinking about revitalization in a couple of ways. Yes, it can be new construction, it can be new development, but to revitalize your hometown, which Murray is to so many people, is to respect its history and to do that, to do updates sensitively. So we're thinking in terms of making Murray the destination hometown for all of Salt Lake Valley. We also are here to talk to and answer some common myths around what historic preservation really means and what it does and what it does not do for cities and for property owners. We'd like to also detail some of the resources on all levels, federal, state, and local, that are available to help Murray really protect the historic buildings and the surrounding, and have the infill development that comes in harmonize and really blend in and honor what we have now and create a welcoming character and atmosphere for Murray citizens. And I will turn the time over to our president, Amy Thomas, who will talk about the data and the issues in detail.
Thanks, Rachel. Today, I'd like to encourage you to prioritize historic preservation in Murray. We can address future growth strategically while also reflecting the desires of the community. Our goal is to create a better city for the residents of Murray and future generations, to create healthy lifestyles, increase jobs and incomes, efficiently use our infrastructure, grow our economy, create a positive city image, supply quality, affordable housing, and work towards a sustainable future. It is cost effective, and it makes sense to invest in our existing historic downtown buildings and neighborhoods. There are numerous benefits, and preservation provides the means for cities like ours to hold on to the character that makes us unique and economically robust, while rising to the challenges that the 21st century presents. It's the mix of old and new buildings working together to fashion dense, walkable, and thriving streets that helps us achieve a more prosperous, sustainable, and healthier future for Murray. There are many benefits of historic preservation, but today I'm going to discuss affordable housing, density, walkability, sustainability, local economy, and just touch on a little bit of what those things can do for our future. In its very essence, historic preservation lends itself to housing affordability. Older buildings are very often well equipped to provide affordable housing because they were actually designed to hold multiple families and uses. That is why all across America right now, creative adaptive reuse projects are converting historic schools, warehouses, old homes, and other buildings into houses for those in need. Community and civic supported historic district designations mean fewer demolitions of affordable housing stock and displacement of residents and construction of new housing that is no longer affordable. One of the most startling statistics is that 32% of households below the poverty line live in older and historic homes. These are people in our community who are put at risk when we destroy the housing made affordable without substantial subsidies. Density is another important contributor to affordability, and historic districts are typically the densest districts in urbanized areas across the nation. In a recent analysis across the US, in 43 of 50 cities, the average population density was greater in historic district neighborhoods compared to modern neighborhoods. In Salt Lake City, the density score for neighborhoods of historic and smaller buildings was 65.1, compared to a density score of only 23.4 in neighborhoods of newer and more modern buildings. Historic neighborhoods have more than twice the population density. This is because density and accommodating many residents does not have to mean large mid-rise buildings wrapping around parking garages. Murray's original subdivisions were built to accommodate large families on small plots. There are plenty of ways to increase density and affordability in cities that don't involve destroying the historic fabric of our communities. One reasonable alternative between the huge apartment complex and the single-family home, often referred to as the missing middle or hidden density, are duplexes, courtyard apartments, and townhomes. And all over America, preservation projects are expanding housing options, helping cities become more affordable, and demonstrating that history, sustainability, fairness, and economic vitality can go hand in hand. Historic preservation districts are one of our best tools for preserving density and smart, vibrant growth. Historic preservation also lends itself to walkability. Before the introduction of the automobile, cities and towns were naturally built on a human scale. As cars grew in popularity, urban planners all over the US chose to prioritize interstates, parking lots, and large-scale developments. A walk score is a numeric ranking that represents the walkability of an address based on pedestrian friendliness and access to businesses. At present, Murray scores a 39 out of 100 on WalkScore's walkability meter, making it a very car-dependent city. Walkability is much more than infrastructure. In a truly walkable city, you can satisfy a wide variety of needs within 15 minutes on foot. You can buy food, take in a player show, shop, and enjoy a green space such as a park or public trail. 50% of residents currently report walkability as a top or high priority when considering where to live. Recent research has shown that in cities across the US, historic neighborhoods overwhelmingly have a higher walk score than the city average as a whole. As a side benefit, historic buildings also provide two amenities to which pedestrians are drawn: sunlight and scale. Because older buildings are shorter than new buildings, they usually provide more sunlight to the street, and because they are smaller in scale, people feel comfortable walking in and around them. Historic preservation and climate sustainability are also natural partners. Bulldozing our existing buildings to replace them just isn't necessary. Historic preservation conserves resources, reduces waste, and saves money by repairing and reusing our existing buildings instead of tearing them down and building new ones. The amount of waste that goes into landfills when eliminating historic buildings is an important factor to consider when evaluating environmental responsibility. To put these environmental factors into context, when a decision is made to demolish just one modestly sized house in Utah and replace it with a new one, 350 tons of waste is generated for the landfill. That is as much waste as one person would generate in 445 years, while just rehabilitating that same house would generate only 50 tons of waste. Our built environment is full of meaningful historic buildings desperately in need of green updates. Among the various types of green building projects, adaptive reuse is the one that makes special sense from a standpoint of embodied energy. Adaptive reuse is sustainable and also helps with affordable housing and density. As Carl Elefante said, the greenest building is the one that already exists. According to recent data, the past 10 years have shown an all-time high in old buildings being converted into apartments, with around 800 projects completed. In addition, 65% of those projects were targeted to low and middle income residents. We would love to see the Harker building adapted into low income housing on the upper floors and commercial options on the ground level. Not only would this provide additional density downtown, but it would maintain desirable sunlit sidewalks while drawing pedestrians into a comfortable shopping experience with a locally owned business. Development, as we all know, is driven by profit, and tearing down existing buildings to build new is often viewed as a more affordable option over preservation and rehabilitation. However, studies have actually found that even if there's no demolition of a current building required, a commercial rehab project generally has a cost savings of about 4%. If, on the other hand, a new construction project includes the cost of raising an existing building, the cost savings will range from 3 to 16%. I have charted these savings here, so you can see on that straight line illustrating our control, which is the new construction. This top line is the cost savings expected when there's no demolition required. You can see in some cases it may cost as much as 9% more than new construction, but the average is that it costs 4% less. This bottom line is the average cost savings when demolition of an existing building is required. And you can see that it is always an average in savings. Also, adaptive reuse often encourages additional local investment in more historic preservation and construction. For example, a 1936 high school in Connecticut had been vacant for more than 20 years when it was rehabilitated into the Tyler, a 70-unit mixed-income residence for seniors. The project received about $9 million in federal and state historic tax credits, low-income housing tax credits, and over $100,000 in tax rebates for energy efficiency initiatives. Here in Murray, we have the Arlington School, which represents a similar opportunity for either low-income housing or market-rate housing for hospital staff due to its prime location. Historic preservation in Murray will also benefit our local economy. Historic and smaller-scaled city blocks have a higher concentration of local businesses and non-chain restaurants and retailers, and boast significantly more jobs per commercial square foot than new, larger buildings. With attractive buildings, spaces, and other desirable attributes, historic districts attract small businesses, which provide convenience, local jobs, and are the source of commercial vitality. Dollars spent in these local businesses typically stay local and are recirculated into other local businesses and new job opportunities for locals. And if local business is important, startup and young businesses are even more so. Almost all new job creation comes from new businesses, who often choose to locate in historic districts, where the physical location can be a reflection of the quality and character of the goods and services that they sell. As I mentioned, living and working in areas which are compact, walkable, and rich in history and beauty is becoming increasingly popular. A density of historic districts is fundamental to the city planning, infrastructure development, and social living that millennials seek. Attracting a young, educated workforce can help Murray attract and retain the businesses that allow our city to grow and prosper. A recent survey found that 44% of millennials surveyed wanted to live in historic, character-rich neighborhoods. National home buying trends back this up. Nationally, despite making up only 34% of home buyers, millennials account for 59% of all buyers of houses built before 1912, and 43% of buyers of houses built between 1912 and 1960. Homeowners in historic homes also often experience increased property values and reduced foreclosure risk. Creating a local historic district is a very powerful tool residents can use to secure personal property. It opens the door for substantial state and federal tax credits and additional grant funding. For example, as you can see in these charts here, In Utah, the average value for all single-family houses in Salt Lake City not located in a historic district increased 36.6%. 4 of the 6 local historic districts and 9 of the 10 national registered districts had rates of appreciation greater than that of the city as a whole. There's also a public benefit. Properties in historic districts generally have an average assessed value per acre several times higher than the rest of the city. The benefits of historic preservation are many for Murray. To create healthy lifestyles, increase jobs and incomes, efficiently use our infrastructure, grow our local economy, create a positive city image, supply affordable housing, and work toward a sustainable future. Murray is filled with a unique makeup of historic buildings and neighborhoods. It tells our story. In addition to the many economic, environmental, psychological, and social benefits, we can also save the historic character that makes our community ours. One of our favorite examples of just this, right in downtown Murray, is the Desert Star Playhouse. The building was once considered uninhabitable in the 80s, but was fully rehabilitated into what we see today, utilizing both federal and state historic tax credits, as well as low-income housing credits and grants from the city. Even today, it is a thriving example of adaptive reuse, with a successful dinner theater on the ground level and low-income housing above. There are plenty of other buildings in downtown Murray that can follow this example. To do this, we simply ask that we keep housing affordable by ensuring our older housing stock is maintained and occupied, support adaptive reuse projects, maintain density by incentivizing construction of smaller scale residential buildings and upzoning, help us work to remove the barriers that make historic preservation difficult, such as issues with zoning, parking requirements, financing for building reuse, and the inflexibility and complexity in city building, energy, and seismic codes. And I will now let Rachel wrap up this final piece of the discussion. Thank you.
Can I actually ask you a question? Is that okay? The wrap up. Perfect. Thank you.
Definitely want to leave time for questions. Thank you, Amy. She's our data person. I'm not capable of putting together all of those numbers, so that's why we're super grateful to have her leading us. So as I'm continually thinking about what we could do in Murray as far as facelifting it and making it vital and viable for everybody once again. And I'm thinking about, as we're here to talk about ways to prioritize our historic resources, it occurs to me that with all of the development and the new construction that's happening all over the valley, if nothing is worth saving, nothing is worth building. And I'd like you to think about that for a minute. The reason that we come and advocate with all of you so much is that things used to be built with a different focus of quality and craftsmanship than they are today. And so I'm thinking about generations down the road. Are people going to mourn the loss of some of these more modern types of construction that you just find everywhere? There might be some, but I think generally the thing that reaches people is harmony in architecture and beautiful forms and the things that the human eye naturally gravitates towards. And when you have that beautiful, I'm trying to think of a word here, that symmetry and form and the things that we used to have and see in buildings that were designed and built, it's harder to make a case that the glass and steel block style buildings will be mourned when they go, and they're going to go quicker than buildings did 100 years ago. The fact that we still have some of those is a testament to the quality that they were built with. And Amy has all the facts on why that kind of construction is lasting construction. But our community and neighborhoods have meaning to the people who live there. They have meaning to our neighbors. They have meaning to us. And I think it speaks to the bigger sort of psychological and emotional character of a community to have a place that they feel is their home base, especially in times that we, like the ones that we have currently, that are more unstable and uncertain, for people to be able to say, Murray is my hometown. It's always been my hometown. Yeah, some changes have taken place, but there's still so much that's recognizable that draws me back, or that my kids and grandkids still want to live and locate here. And I keep thinking, like, I know you all have toured Sugar House and some of the surrounding communities that have revitalized their downtown sectors. And yes, there's a lot of activity in these centers, but they're not distinguishable really from each other. Now, the example of Holiday keeps getting put up as, well, you know, Holiday did it right. Well, our Preservation Utah director, David Ammett, pointed out that Holiday is trying to copy what Murray already has and has had. So I think Murray's always been original. We still have a lot in our Block 1 and our downtown that is original. I feel like the opportunity is there to take that as a springboard. And also anywhere that we have buildings that are older or 50 years or older, they're considered historic. Maybe they should be looked at with more of a creative view than, oh, well, let's get that out of the way and build something that's many stories higher.
Rachel,
Yes.
the 20 minutes are over.
Okay. Thanks, Diane. I promised you I wouldn't run farther, but can I just take 1 minute to make our asks? We just have a list of asks. Okay. So Murray was once a model of historic preservation code that we used to have protections within the state, and other communities used to look to Murray as an example of how to form their own code protections. We ask that that the city allow protection codes, the old ones, to be reviewed and updated in partnership with Historic Murray First and the property owning stakeholders. We feel like there needs to be a balance of property rights as well as historic property protections. We'd also like to ask that the city works with us and the city planning office to create and commit to a historic style guide for new construction infill, so that we can have that harmonious feel throughout our city. We also ask that we be included in continuing capacity in the conversations surrounding the revitalization of Block 1 downtown, especially the buildings of historic significance. What we have to offer is that we have several professional architectural historians and others that are professionals in the field that are wonderful resources. And we also have a network of statewide wonderful resources that can be utilized. We are a nonprofit, and we have the capacity to be a halfway point for a resource for capital campaign funds because of our 501c3 status. And we continue to offer both you and the citizens of Murray opportunities to learn more about historic preservation and be educated on that. So we thank you so much for allowing us to come tonight and share this with you.
Thank you, Rachel. We were already past our 20-minute allotted time. It seems as if we should have allotted more time. I'm really sorry about that. I know I'm the time Nazi, but anyway, thank you very much. I really
Can
appreciate
we ask
the
questions?
present- Well, we're going to go over if we do that. So if they're very quick.
Yeah. Number one, could we get, Rachel, from you your code that list? Could I get that? And where is the Harker building? What is the address to the Harker building?
That is on Block 1. It's next to, I always get them confused. I think the Harker building is the bigger one on Block 1.
It's the Dar building?
building.
Okay. So many names.
I know.
Okay. That's it. I just like that list, and also where the Harker
And I do have the resources that I pulled for this presentation I would like to give to
Wonderful.
the council so you can review those.
Is your presentation available? Could
Yes,
you
I
get
have
it
the
to
presentation
Jennifer?
as well, and I have all the resources that I printed for you.
Perfect.
My only question, and it's a quick one, would be, could you off the top of your head name the 3 to 5 buildings that your areas that you see are the most important to preserve?
Block 1, particularly. The Murray Theater, which I know we already are. We love Arlington.
That's this.
That's this
Okay.
building. And honestly, the downtown historic district,
Okay.
in the residential area, not just MCCD, but the residential area is being where I live. There's a lot of ugliness happening.
Okay.
Love to save what's left.
Thank you.
Thanks. We appreciate it. It was really
And
interesting.
some mid-century modern neighborhoods would be great. They're not at risk right now, but they could be in the future.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everyone from the Historic Foundation for being here as well. So,
All right. I was in such a hurry to get to the Historic Murray First Foundation, I forgot to welcome the council and also excuse Kat Martinez. And so the rest of the council is present. So we're at number 2, which is discussion on an ordinance relating to land use. It amends the general plan from low-density residential and office to medium-density residential and amends the zoning map from G-O and R-1-8 to R-M-15 for the properties located at 787 and 825 to 865 East, 4800 South. Oh my goodness. Zach Smallwood will be presenting.
Yes, if I can get all untangled from all the wires. That would, so many wires.
And Jared's here for backup.
Yeah. Let's see. From beginning. Okay. Thank you, Council, for allowing us to be here tonight. As you said, this is a request from the Lotus Company. The applicant is Allie Platt. They are requesting a general plan amendment, future land use map amendment from general office and low density residential to medium density residential, and a zone map amendment from R18 and GO to RM15. The properties, as you had mentioned, 787 and 825 to 865 East, 4800 South. So as you can see, it's located right here, just kind of on the corner of 48th and Van Winkle. So let's see, we'll go here. So currently this larger property is a largely vacant office building. There are a few tenants in there, but the property owners, Lotus, have stated that it's near its economic life and are interested in redeveloping the property. They are having trouble maintaining tenants in that building. And they also have purchased the single family home to the west of that. And that is currently a single family residential building home. And then there's a lot of property in the back. It's very narrow and very deep. So let's see. So the future land use, like I mentioned, does include this. You can't see it because I don't have the laser on. There we go. So this property is within the low density residential, and the property next door to it is slated as office. If you'll remember back when we did the general plan update in 2016, 2015, 2017, all those years, we really we kept a lot of these as they were, as they had been operating, with the intention that we would look at those in the future if a request had come forward. So just a couple things. The office designation allows for a wide range of uses, office uses. If you'll remember, earlier in the year, we actually brought forward a text amendment to expand the uses in the GO zone. This was in direct relation to help this company get some additional, this property owner to get some additional tenants into their office space, because we do realize that the nature of office is changing post-COVID. And yeah, so this office designation allows for a wide range of uses. Also, this low density residential, I believe it's been vacant since they've purchased. I'm not sure if somebody's still living there or not, but Lotus does now own the property. So medium density residential, they are requesting an RM15, which allows up to 12 units per acre at a base. And then again, as we've talked about in the before with that incentive density bonus, they could get up to 15, but we've never really seen that happen. So a little bit of district comparison here between the GO R18 and RM15. As you can see, GO does not allow for residential except for assisted or retirement living facilities. Pretty much about a 10-foot range difference in height. So office buildings are only allowed 30 feet when within 100 feet of a residential zone. R18 allows up to 35, and the RM15 allows up to 40 as approved by the Planning Commission. The front yard setbacks largely the same, rear yard largely the same, just 5 feet on either side, kind of. And then parking in the GO is about 4 and 5 spaces depending on the use for every 1,000 square feet. And then in the R18, it's 2 spaces per lot, and RM15 is 2.5 spaces per unit, which is pretty standard. So the public hearing was held by the Planning Commission on July 7th. 110 notices were sent to all property owners within 400 feet, and the Planning Commission voted 5-0 to forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council. Here's a list of findings. We do feel that the general plan is a living document. It needs to be evaluated when certain circumstances arise, and especially when like a property owner is telling us that the economic life of a property is not succeeding. That always brings trouble for, vacant properties can be scary at times.
Zach, you said we already made a change for them, correct?
We made a change to the zone in general, the general office zone, to allow greater uses. So we changed some of the uses from conditional, like beauty salons, to be permitted so that it's an easier track to get to better uses. It didn't change the zone of that specific property. Okay. But this was in response to this company asking for us to reevaluate some of those uses so they could try to get more tenants in.
The Lotus Company.
Yeah, that was one of their asks.
Okay. And how long ago was that?
I think it was adopted in April, I want to say. Yeah, just earlier this year.
So we just, yeah.
Yep.
So we just recently did it, and they're already asking for another change.
Yeah, I think they're having issues able to get those applicants or those tenants. Yeah. So just real quick, just wrapping up. So we do allow for flexibility in that general plan, and again, Planning Commission voted 5-0 to recommend the change to the City Council. So our recommendation is to, for both the general plan and the zoning map, that the City Council adopt both of those. So happy to answer any questions you guys have. Tried to whiz through that real quick.
Can you talk to me about the accessibility to offices and what that looks like in this current climate, and how we as a city participate with providing space, providing a business space? My fear, and this is where I'm going with this, my fear is that we have all these empty spaces, but it's really a property owner who allows renters to rent. And over time, what we've seen historically is that developers want to move into this residential model and really not do with any type of commercial space. Mm-hmm. And then we see it with our new builds that they're still not placing people into these spaces. So can you kind of just talk to me a little bit about what it is as a city that we're doing and looking at? If we were to rechange the zone, does it include anything for business or retail space in the future? And what could we do if let's say it didn't get passed, but how we could support either this organization or any other future organizations and business owners. And I know it's up to them, but
Sure.
what are we doing as a city?
So citywide, we really, that's kind of a difficult question, but I will say that a lot of our office growth has come along around the I-15 corridor. So Security National, for example, has built 2 brand new 6-story buildings. And we've had other applications for concept reviews and things like that for people looking at developing those areas. So I think visibility is very important. Where Van Winkle, I'm sure you guys are pretty familiar with this area. It's kind of forested, which isn't bad, but it's not very visible as an office space. And I don't think it necessarily is a great place for office in general. But we are focusing on commercial in other spots, say like Murray Crossing across the street on 9th East, that will have elements of commercial as part of it as well. And so we have been focusing more on providing those high traffic, and when I mean traffic, I mean high people traffic areas that we can get a lot of big bang for our buck. And that's really what the commercial brokers and things like that are looking for, are those high corridors, high visibility corridors. And if I could, I also just want to bring up, because I forgot to bring it up a minute ago, but this property is surrounded largely to the southeast area with already existing RM15 zoning, and also up here, or maybe it's RM10. I'm sorry, RM10 zoning here and RM15 up to the north over here as well. Yes, there is an existing single family home right here and right here as well. But I think this does provide an opportunity to kind of look at that a little bit better. And we've had discussions with the applicant back and forth on what would be the best zone to go after. And we feel that this is probably the most appropriate and least impactful with working with that developer. Does that kind of?
Kind of. And I think I would like to have a more in-depth conversation about the business aspect of that, because this opens us up to Three Fountains wanting to rezone themselves, and which I've been approached about, or any type of other commercial space to rezone themselves. And what does that look like? And how does that play into our general plan in the future as well? And
Sure.
So that, I know that's a larger conversation. A follow-up conversation I have, if you can go back to the picture, is what about like the trees? There's a stream that goes along there. What's that conversation? And I would hate to lose all those mature trees as well.
That is definitely a concern of ours. Jared in the past, and I plan on continuing that, has requested that like a tree survey be done during a development proposal, and saying, the trees that are good trees, not your standard not so good trees, invasive trees, things like that. Sorry, I'm making Jared laugh over here. Inferior trees.
Like Russian olive?
I know. Yes, thank you. I didn't want to be biased against the Russian olive or anything, but there I go. So, but that is a concern. There has been discussion that down the road, if this were to get rezoned, it worked successfully on the Ivory property on 7th West and 5300 South, where we pushed the taller units away from single family residential. We were able to have those conversations. And so we feel like between a tree survey, the Salt Lake County flood control reached out to me earlier this week. That expressed concerns about that and that they would be involved. That's 100% accurate. Trey, our city engineer, that would all come through at a development proposal. So we are aware that Big Cottonwood Creek runs right through that. This property specifically up here is owned by Salt Lake City itself. So this will probably never, ever, ever, never, ever change. So this little part of it will never change as far as, because I don't think Salt Lake City gets rid of their property either. So that part is not part of the request, and I don't anticipate being, even if they were to sell it, there's really nothing you can do there. But I think it has something to do with their water lines. So
I have a question.
sure.
So I read all the citizens, I was there at the planning commission meeting, and there were some citizens that were a little worried and concerned. Have they met with the developer, and how are they now with this plan?
I have not heard anything as of yet. I have not discussed with Allie if they've met with her since then. I think they did meet, if my memory serves me right. I believe they were talking out in the hall afterwards. But I can definitely, when this comes for a public hearing, I can make sure that I have an update on that. Or you're more than welcome to call, and we can.
Okay.
Yeah. Probably not until next week when I can reach
that's
out to Allie.
And in one of the comments on page 11, it was from you, Zach. Can you explain what a row homes are?
They're like townhomes.
Okay.
Row homes are, it's another name for a townhome, kind of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're kind of in a row right next to each
Yeah, they are.
But are they connected?
They are connected.
Okay.
Yep, they do have a shared wall.
Okay. Thank you.
Last question, since we are going to be talking about transportation, how do we include a developer in the conversation with walkability along 4800 South?
Yeah, definitely.
And are they open to that?
I believe they are. This definitely, this does have a pretty, it's not super wide, but it is a pretty clean, enjoyable sidewalk, at least in this area. I mean, getting across Van Winkle, you take your life into your hands. But that, again, that's a UDOT road, and there's very little that we can control there. But definitely the walkability there that is always at the top of my mind. I wish I could make everything walkable. So that's definitely something that we can make sure to discuss with them as well.
Any other? Okay, I have a concern. I mean, when we amend the general plan, it always concerns me.
Definitely.
And I want to make sure that, there's a reason that this was in the general plan. And I know you always say that the general plan is, flexible. And so it makes me wonder, why do we have a general plan then if it's, just there to be changed? That does concern me, and I wanted to bring that up because I always do.
No, and that's good. I appreciate those comments, actually, because there are instances where we wouldn't, there are conversations that we have almost daily where we can use the general plan and say, this is not appropriate, that what you're asking for just doesn't work. We don't think it would work. It doesn't fit with what we think. So when we actually do bring things forward to you, we've put a lot of thought, we've put a lot of time and effort into thinking, is this the right move? And whether, what needs to happen in this area. And because, as hard as we try as planners, we can't always predict the future. We anticipate where growth goes. We try really hard. But sometimes, especially in this little area, sometimes we just don't see these things coming, and we don't anticipate them coming. And so, yes, we do look at that very deeply, and we do use the general plan a lot outside of what you guys see here. When you guys see it, it's because we've recommended for things. We don't take things unless we're absolutely forced, but with an application, with a denial. We will, if something comes forward and someone makes an application like that. That's why you guys only see the things that we're always we're in favor for. You don't see the behind the scenes where we're actually telling people no quite often.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I know the general plan is very expensive. When's our next one?
I think Jared has it in the he 2023. So next year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
It's
it
a
ends
lot of
up-
data, a lot of work.
And it ends up costing about 100,000. I mean, it did before.
I will say it's going to cost more.
Yeah, I
it-
figured.
the-
it
the-
probably would.
Just yeah, no, wait. Shh. Well, I mean, just for an example's sake, I'm doing, one of the station area plans for that moderate income housing portion that we'll get to later. Typically, a station area plan costed in 2019 was $75,000, and they were able to grant us that money. When I was like, oh, I'm sure we could get it done for about that much, WFRC came back and said nobody's looking at anything less than 150. So if you scale those,
That's why we have to take it very seriously.
yes,
and,
we do. Yep.
And,
So, sorry.
okay,
Sorry.
just one more thing.
Sure.
Also, this is the second request
Yeah.
from this. How many do we allow?
How
I mean,
many?
if they want to come back with another request to change that,
So if this one is denied, when could they come back and request? I'm sorry.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. So it's the code says that they are only allowed to request a zone map amendment, and if it's denied, or the action can only happen once a year, I believe.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
So let me ask, with the amendment, why, with an existing zone, why wouldn't they want to apply with something that's already existing, and why amend? Why ask for the amendment? Or they're wanting the amendment to get out of the geo zone, correct?
To get out of the geo zone, to remove the office use.
So what's a good stepping stone out of a geo zone within a neighborhood? Like, what usually happens? Is this like a natural progression to that
This is-
RM15?
Yeah, RM15 is really kind of
Why not an RM or R18?
R18. It's
Because then it's less impact. And I know that Miller Estates is across the street,
Sure.
but they have their own hardships and
Sure.
their own problems
and I think
within the neighborhood too.
part of that would be, so in order to do a subdivision, Murray City requires that any subdivisions be on public streets. So they would have to dedicate a 49-foot wide, however long, street with a cul-de-sac. I don't know how feasible that would be. That's definitely something to speak to the applicant about at the public hearing. And then I think there would be probably some concerns from engineering on a public access road, a public road that close between to Van Winkle on that curve, as opposed to just a straight private access.
Okay, so it wouldn't have a private access is kind of what I'm.
It would. Yeah, this would, if they build it, if and when they are to build something, it would be in a private access road. It wouldn't be a purely dedicated street.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Which kind of changes some of the things. They can do narrower right of ways.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Zach, thank you.
Thank you.
Now let's go to number 3, which is a discussion on an ordinance relating to land use, which amends the zoning map for the property located at 98 West Winchester from R18 to RNB. Jared and Seth. Seth, welcome.
Hi, this is my first time at a city council meeting, so it's good to
I
be
know. That's why I said welcome.
Yeah,
it's
thank you.
it's okay. We're nice people, truly.
here. So this one is a little bit easier because it doesn't require a general plan amendment. It's just a rezone that's in accordance with what the future land use map calls for in the general plan. This is an aerial view of the property off Winchester Street. It's just this little corner piece. What they want to do is just add more parking spaces for the office condos that are to the west. And for some reason, it's currently zoned R18 when that parcel right next to it is R&B. So they're just wanting to change it to R&B to basically match. I think their plan is also to combine the two lots. So it'll just be an extension of that parking lot. Here's a picture of what it currently looks like. It has a fence just sitting there empty. It's not big enough to build anything on it if it's R18. It's pretty much guaranteed to be a parking lot because it's so small. Here's a picture of the future land use map. It shows that it calls for that zone, for that parcel to be changed to R&B eventually. And that's what the applicant's requesting to do. They're not going to build anything on this property, so this isn't super important. It's just to show that there's not really that much different between R18, R&B. R&B is designed to be next to residential areas because it's low impact. So we had a public hearing with the Planning Commission in July, sent out the notices, and all of the commissioners that were present voted to recommend approval to City Council. These are the findings that are also listed in the staff report for this recommendation. Basically saying what I've said, it's not really going to have much impact just because it's going to be a parking lot. So Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval of this zone change from R18 to R&B. That's all I have for that's the whole that's the whole thing.
Thank you very much, Seth. Any questions for Seth?
And you didn't have to let any of the citizens know on Winchester that this was going to be happening, or did you?
We did. We notified.
You did. Did you hear anything back from any of the citizens?
No, we didn't. We didn't get any comments on this one. This was a while back, so I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
But 39 notices were sent out to the surrounding areas, and we didn't get any comments about it.
Okay. And can you tell us as a council what R&B is?
So it stands for residential neighborhood business, and it's a commercial zone, but it's really intended to be around residential areas on busy roads. This kind of serves as a buffer between a busy road and a neighborhood. You would imagine like smaller shops, not anything big. Like right here, you can see with the requirements, it's a lower height requirement than R18, for example. So it's pretty small buildings. And that's the main purpose of it, is just to kind of be a buffer between residential and busy area.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. You got an easy one.
Yeah, very easy.
Thank you very much, Seth. Now we'll go to number 4, which is a discussion on an ordinance relating to land use. It amends the zoning map for the property located at 64 and 72 West Woodrow Street from GO to R18. Jared and Seth.
So this one does require a change to the general plan. It's right next to Murray High School. To the west of that area is an office space, and to the northwest also it's kind of an office area. It's currently zoned for office. It's GO. Murray School District wants to take those properties and allow their high school program, I think their construction program, to build single family homes there. So they want to change it to R18. Like I said, it's currently zoned GO. From what I understand, it used to be R18. It was zoned to GO with the anticipation of a developer building some offices there, but that hasn't happened since it was changed. Those are some pictures of what it looks like right now. One of the lots is vacant, and then from what I could tell, the home was vacant too. It looked empty, and stuff was just overgrown everywhere, so there's not really anything going on there right now. So this is just to show what office allows, what the office zone allows for, and it's pretty much how it sounds. It's just generally office buildings. And what they want to change it to, low density residential. Typically, that's just R18. That's the most common zone in the whole city. So that's what they want to change it to be able to build those homes. Like I said, it's Murray High School's construction program. So these are just some of the reasons that we feel comfortable supporting this change. These are objectives that are listed in the general plan, things that the general plan hopes to accomplish with their zoning and with their land use. Basically, it comes down to they're going to build new homes on this and kind of reinvest into that area that's just sitting there vacant and not being used. That's kind of the main reason that we're supporting this zone change and general plan change. We also met about this in July with 47 notices sent out. There were no comments about this one. And then all of the members of Planning Commission that were there voted to approve the zone change and general plan change. And then these are the findings for why we're suggesting this change to the general plan and to the zoning map. So Planning Commission and staff are recommending approval for both the general map change and the zone map change.
Remind me of the uses on the R18.
It's single family homes.
Single family.
Yes.
So how many can they fit in that area then?
It's
It
just
would just be 2.
on those lots, it's 2. Yeah. It's each lot has to have a minimum of 8,000 square feet to build.
I am so glad that they're doing something with that area. Oh my goodness, it really needs to be developed. So, yes,
Just one comment.
sure.
Just that this kind of goes to the exact opposite, or to exactly what we were saying on my item last, that we try to get these things right, and we general planned this area to be office, and it hasn't happened, and we kind of see that. And when the school district came forward and suggested,
I know that's great.
to move that over to single family, we felt that warranted greater look. And so this is kind of almost the exact opposite of, kind of going back to your question about changing the general plan and stuff like that. I just had to say that. So.
What it
Thank
means is this is us changing our minds twice. Because- can I say something real quick? Sorry. But if you remember this area, we did the general plan change and that zone change for that general office. And a lot of you were not, everybody but Ann was not on the council at the time. It's been a few years ago. But in this area, there had been a lot of problems. We'd rezoned as a city in the past to do some offices, and some had happened. But the rest of the immediately adjacent residential properties started to get derelict. They were being neglected. So we did kind of an amputation, and it worked. We got new office development on some of it, and this little piece was left over and left out of the office development that happened and started to sit again. So we're going back to, if someone's interested in bringing residential in there, what we wanted was activity in the area, to see, just like you said, Diane, to see activity happen, reinvestment in the area. We've got new offices in there, homes in there, and all of that serves to do what we wanted the general plan to do, to make a transition, a good transition from 53rd South through to offices, to those homes on American Avenue, and that's one of the cutest parts of the city. And now those are all kind of safer, and then you'll see reinvestment in those homes in the future too. So
Yeah, that's great. I'm so glad we're doing
we have to
that.
change our minds sometimes to make it all happen.
And I support this program. I have 3 in my neighborhood. One is on Bullion, just up the street from my house, and they're working on it. The kids are there, and we have 2 across Riverview Junior High, which are absolutely gorgeous. And then also one almost went to $1 million. So, plus it gets the kids into other avenues of what they would like to have as a profession, like surveying, contractor, a plumber, a roofer. And the kids just absolutely love doing these. We hadn't done one for quite a while because Murray City School District couldn't find property. And the school board member and I were going around looking for school property for the school kids so they could build one of these houses. And we're thought, well, when Bullion gets done, where are we going to go? So I'm very excited that they have picked up these 2 pieces of lot, and that these houses are going to be built, and the kids will have a future into getting out and building and looking into other careers for their lives. I applaud it. Thank you.
It's a win-win.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Nope. Comments? All right. So that is the last one, our 4th. We are adjourned.